When Myles Garrett was asked if Shedeur is the guy, his answer sent shockwaves through the league. Ryan Clark's response? You need to hear this.
Speaking of your team, right? 4 quarterbacks, the challenges. Is Shedeur the guy?
That's what we're looking at as a guy. No, we're going to give him a shot to prove that he's the guy. We're not going to give anyone that title until they go out there and earn it. He was the last person to be on the field, and he showed from flashes. So we're going to give him an opportunity to show what he can really do.
Yeah, you paying another guy $46 million. Is he going to get a shot?
I feel like everyone on the roster is going to get a shot. He was the last guy on the field, so he's obviously going to get first service. Deshaun, whoever else on the roster, they're going to get a real look.
We have to be better. The question that was just asked to Myles Garrett to open his press conference was ridiculous. Legitimately 2 minutes ago, Myles Garrett takes the podium, gets ready to accept some pre-practice questions from the lovely media. Surely it's about the NFL season starting in 2 weeks, right? Right? Nope, it was about a speeding ticket he got a week ago. That's not even the worst part. The question that was asked about it was the worst part. Because as some of you may know, Myles Garrett got in a car accident a couple years ago, so questions raised about a speeding ticket after this happened and affected him were kind of valid, but not this one. The question that was asked, I'm gonna keep straight face, was, what's it like when that speedometer is getting up to 100? What's it like? What is it like? I mean, what do you want him to say? What do you want him to say? Oh, it makes me feel great. Well, what do you want him to say? Newsflash, might have been a setup. This is a guy who just had an enormous back-to-school giveaway event, helping more than 5,000 local students in Cleveland. But we gotta know what it's like getting up to 100 in your car. What? I'll finish every media-centric video with this. These are people. These are human beings. Part of the reason I try to keep it as real as possible on here, as well as real as possible on Honored Land, where I actually cover the Browns. We need to stop setting athletes up for failure with these things.
Every year for 30 years, what should the Browns do at quarterback?
Good luck, Jeff.
We have crushed this one, huh? Look, I think it's going to be Sanders. I think it's going to be Gabriel and Deshaun Watson. I think will be the three that they let compete once OTAs begin. They're going to let them all battle it out, let everybody see who the best of the best is, and hopefully build around there. But this thing has been an absolute disaster. And I thought the Sanders, as he began to progress throughout the season, gave him a chance.
Myles Garrett just refused to call Shedeur Sanders the guy for Cleveland, and what he said instead has the entire NFL in shock. When asked if Shedeur is their franchise quarterback, Garrett said, "We're going to give him a shot to prove it." Prove it? This kid went from 5th string to starter in 1 season. But here's the real problem. Cleveland has Deshaun Watson sitting there with a $46 million fully guaranteed contract, and they can't get rid of him. Ryan Clark just broke down why this is the biggest disaster in football, and the truth is way worse than you think. Stick around.
Speaking of Cleveland, Micah Parsons, the Defensive Player of the Year, asked Myles Garrett, or I should say that Defensive Player of the Year, if Shedeur was going to be the Browns' starting quarterback next season. Here's how he responded.
Do y'all have the guy? Is Shedeur the guy?
That's what we're looking at as a guy. No, we're going to give him a shot to prove that he's the guy. So we're not going to give anyone that title until they go out there and earn it. And he was the last person to be on the field, and he showed some flashes. So we're going to give him an opportunity to show what he can really do, uncork the ball.
Garrett said they're going to give Sanders a shot to prove himself, that he showed some flashes at the end of last season, and that they want to see what he can really do when they uncork the ball. But notice what he didn't say. He didn't call Sanders their franchise quarterback. He didn't say the job is his. He said Sanders would get an opportunity to show what he can really do. That's diplomatic speak for, we honestly don't know yet. And that's where things get interesting, because when you dig into the Cleveland quarterback situation, it's not just complicated, it's an absolute mess. Let me break down why this matters so much. First, you've got Deshaun Watson sitting there with a fully guaranteed $46 million contract for next season. Think about that for a second. Cleveland is paying Watson more money than most franchises spend on their entire quarterback room, and the last time he played well was literally years ago. The panel couldn't even remember when. That's not a good sign when you're trying to build a competitive roster. Then you've got Shedeur Sanders, who started the season as the 4th or 5th string quarterback, getting 0 reps in OTAs. By the end of the season, he had worked his way up to being the starter. That's impressive. That shows determination, work ethic, and the ability to earn respect from coaches and teammates. But does it mean he's ready to be the franchise guy? That's the million-dollar question. Here's what makes this situation even more complex. Cleveland has a brand new coaching staff coming in, fresh eyes on everything. Todd Monken has his work cut out for him because the quarterback situation is just one of many problems. The offensive line has serious question marks. They don't know who's staying and who's going. The defense, even with Jim Schwartz, has issues to address. This isn't a team that's one quarterback away from competing. This is a team that needs a complete rebuild. And that brings us to the real dilemma. What are Cleveland's options? Option 1, roll with what they have. That means Sanders, Watson, and maybe Jameis Winston competing in training camp. Let them battle it out and see who emerges. The problem, you'd have 2 second-year quarterbacks with minimal experience, potentially a rookie if they draft someone, and Watson, who nobody knows what version of him shows up. Option 2, trade for a veteran. Names like Kyler Murray have been floated around. But here's the thing. Watson's contract makes that nearly impossible. You can't add another massive quarterback contract to a room that already has $46 million tied up in a player who might not even be your starter. The math doesn't work. Option 3, draft a quarterback high. But if you do that, you're now looking at a quarterback room with 3 young, inexperienced players and Watson. That's not a recipe for success. That's a recipe for chaos.
Like, rolling with what they have in their quarterback room makes the most sense. And I would assume when you start the offseason program, day one, Shedeur Sanders would be the guy that takes reps as the starting quarterback. Does that mean a lot when you have months to go and preparing for the upcoming season? Probably not. But I think he's earned the right that the job should start out as his, depending upon what Gross said. If they bring in another guy that they're paying a lot of money, then you're going to assume he's the guy.
Yeah, he's earned his way from, what was it, 4th spot or 5th spot last year to OTAs where he's getting no reps. So he'll get to work in with the ones. Listen, they got a lot of issues in Cleveland, right? I mean, the O-line's got issues of who's going to be hanging around, who's not hanging around. I know the defense with Jim Schwartz.
So what should Cleveland do? The analysts had different takes, but there was consensus on one thing. This is going to be a rebuild year. They need to step back, slow things down, and accept that immediate success might not be in the cards. And for a fan base that's been waiting for a championship for decades, that's a tough pill to swallow. But let's talk about Shedeur Sanders specifically. What did we actually see from him? He showed flashes. He earned his way from the bottom of the depth chart to the starting position. He proved he could handle NFL defenses, at least in limited action. But flashes aren't the same as consistency. And in the NFL, consistency is everything. Myles Garrett's comments reflect that uncertainty. He's being honest. He's not going to anoint Sanders as the savior before Sanders proves he can be that guy. And honestly, that's the right approach. Too many times, teams rush to judgment on young quarterbacks, either giving up on them too soon or crowning them too early. Cleveland's been burned by both approaches over the years. What's fascinating about this situation is what it says about the modern NFL. Quarterback is the most important position in sports, yet teams constantly struggle to find the right answer. Cleveland's had 30 years of trying different solutions: veterans, rookies, retreads, first-round picks, undrafted free agents. Nothing has worked long-term. The Deshaun Watson contract is the elephant in the room. It's a reminder of what happens when teams get desperate and make win-now moves without thinking through all the consequences. Cleveland bet big on Watson, and right now that bet isn't paying off. They're stuck with him financially, which limits their flexibility to solve the problem in other ways. Here's what Ryan Clark and the panel got right. Cleveland needs to be realistic about where they are. They're not one piece away from contention. They need to rebuild the offensive line, figure out the quarterback position, address issues on defense, and establish an identity under new coaching. That takes time. The question is whether ownership and the fan base will have the patience for that. Cleveland fans are passionate. They've been loyal through decades of disappointment. They deserve better. But better might not come immediately, and that's the hardest part of this whole situation. Shedeur Sanders represents hope. He's young, he's shown potential, and he's earned respect by working his way up the depth chart. But hope isn't the same as certainty, and until Sanders proves he can be a consistent, reliable starter in this league, Cleveland will continue to have questions at the most important position.
Hanging around, I know the defense with Jim Schwartz. Like, there's a whole lot of questions that need to be answered on top of the QB question. So Todd's got his work cut out for him. He's gonna enjoy this offseason, I think.
Maybe just a reboot year in Cleveland?
Yeah, it's probably time to take a step back and
slow the thing down,
and rebuild.
Slow it down a little bit.
Maybe accept some losing for a short period of time.
I was a part of those years. I got no comment.
I was about to say, why don't you chime in? No?
Good luck, Cleveland. I'm rooting for you.
Too soon.
All right, problem solved. Doesn't sound like a player who's necessarily dying to leave Philadelphia. What are you hearing?
The broader lesson here goes beyond Cleveland. Every NFL team is constantly evaluating the quarterback position. It's the one position that can make or break your franchise. Get it right, and you're competing for championships. Get it wrong, and you're stuck in mediocrity for years. Cleveland's situation is unique because of Watson's contract, but the fundamental challenge is universal. How do you identify the right quarterback? How do you develop them? How do you know when to move on? These are questions every general manager loses sleep over. What happens next in Cleveland will be fascinating to watch. Will Sanders get the first-team reps when off-season workouts begin? Will Watson be healthy and competitive? Will they draft another quarterback? Will they make a trade? There are so many variables, and each decision impacts the next. One thing is certain, Myles Garrett's comments weren't meant to diminish Sanders. They were realistic. They acknowledged that Sanders has earned an opportunity, but that opportunity comes with the expectation to prove himself. That's fair. That's how it should be. The Cleveland Browns quarterback situation is a reminder that building a championship team is incredibly difficult. There are no shortcuts. You can't simply throw money at the problem, as the Watson contract proves. You have to make smart decisions, develop young talent, and sometimes accept that rebuilding takes time. For Shedeur Sanders, the message is clear. The job is yours to win, but you have to go out and win it. Showing flashes isn't enough. You need to prove you can be the guy week in and week out. That's the challenge ahead. And for Cleveland fans, buckle up. This offseason is going to be wild. There will be speculation, debates, controversies, and eventually decisions that will shape the franchise for years to come. Whether those decisions lead to success or more disappointment remains to be seen. But one thing we know for sure, the conversation about Cleveland's quarterback situation isn't ending anytime soon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more NFL breakdowns, quarterback controversies, and insider analysis. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest videos on the biggest stories in football.